why I'm here today, a big tool that I've used for healing, for clarity, for growth, for emotional regulation is meditation. I'm an advocate for the practice, and I just wanted to plant that seed in the hearts and the minds of your listeners to give yourself an opportunity as often as possible to observe the nature of your mind.
Welcome to the What's a Revolution show for men and the people who love them, where we discuss how men can find the revolution within themselves, where people can find the revolution within themselves. I am your host, Dr. Charles Corprew. What's good, Revolutionaries? I hope all is well. As I've been saying for the longest time, I hope that you are in community, that you're in space with your people, that you're finding your way, that you're finding opportunities to say, I want to get better. I want to be more transformative, not only in my life, but in my family's life, in my community's life, the people that I work with. And that's why we do the stuff that we do here, asking that, thought-provoking question that I've been asking for almost 9 years now. What's your revolution? What's the deep transformative thing that is going to get you to the next level of your life? And I think it's, I have to say this, Revolutionaries, is that I'm realizing more and more about what my purpose is at this juncture of my life. One of my favorite books is Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks. And I won't get into what, the thesis of the book is. I'll get into the takeaway. And one of the things is that as we get older, it is our job to be able to disseminate wisdom back into the ethos, that we have learned so much, that we have experienced so much, Revolutionaries, that it is our job to make sure that those who are coming behind us have a way, that they don't have to make some of the mistakes that we made, that we can offer that wisdom. So I'm grateful for all the things that I get to pour into 757 Collab, Black Ambition, Camelback Ventures, my friends, their sons, their children, the folks that I meet on the street, the ability to just say, you know what, let's spend some time. So I'm excited about that. And, if you ever need support, don't hesitate to reach out to me at charles@whatsyourrevolution.com. Let's set up a time to talk and see how we may be able to help you move to the next space of your life. I'm fortunate, as you all know, to meet amazing people. I am lucky. I am extremely lucky to meet amazing people. Then I say, hey, would you like to come on my show? Because I think your story is going to be amazing. And this brother, Robert Brix Glover, just happened literally to walk past me one day. I didn't know this brother from Adam, but if you see him, Revolutionaries, you're going to be like, yo, who's that dude? And he's laughing and smiling. And for those who get the visually inclined, you're going to see, right? Make sure you Google him, Robert Brix Glover. You're going to see this brother and all that he is. But I remember, Brooks, seeing you at the Norfolk Wine Festival. And I think I remember telling you this story that you walked past me, and I was like, there's a certain, as our mutual friend Kelly King says, there's a mutual, when you understand when people have an energetic response to the world, an energetic outlay to the world. And you had that, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you walk, and we'll call Town Point Park the proverbial room. But the way that you walked in, I was like, okay, all right, this brother's doing something. And right? And particularly, Brooks, where we are. Brix, where we are. It's not a whole lot of people that walk into the room with a level of gravitas that make people say, wait, okay. So I got to meet this brother. And then maybe a week later, he walks into my job, and I was like, okay, maybe this is the universe saying that we need to connect. And we
Yeah.
had a conversation. So, Revolutionaries, welcome to the show, my man, Robert Brix Glover. And you're going to hear his story soon enough, but and it's going to surprise you who he really is. But I just want you to know who he is in this conversation right now. What's up, brother? How are you?
Hey, Charles, I'm so honored to be, and I know that's such a cliche way to start a conversation on the podcast, but truly to be associated with a man like you is an honor. And thanks for seeing me from day one, because that's something that is extremely valuable to me, especially, and I'm not trying to jump into the pool in the deep end, but growing
Yeah.
up in an environment where I wasn't seen.
Mm-hmm.
So to receive that from you means more to me than you can imagine, bro. So thanks for having me, and thanks for friendship. Let me just express that. Thank you for being who you are, and yeah, looking forward to building some more with you and having this conversation today.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I definitely appreciate it, and it's very rare, at least for me, as you move through spaces in life, as you move from young line to middle age line to old line. I maybe I need not to aspire to this old line thing so fast, but friendship is hard. Friendship is hard, and meeting people who are value aligned, who, are opened up. And particularly, I'm going to say this, particularly as Black men, it is hard for us, or at least let me move back. It has been hard for me to make new friends as I've grown into this space of who I am at this juncture of my life.
Yeah.
You have old friends. I talk to Quince Griffin, weekly, who's my childhood best friend, 47 years, but to say I'm going to bring somebody new into the fold, value alignment and, seeing the world, similarly, it's hard. So I am grateful for the opportunity to grow this friendship and hopefully be able to pour into each other. Cause you just, you never know who's going to walk past you one day and the impact that you may have on each other's lives. Brother, how are you? How are you doing?
Overall, I am well. I'm well. I am in a season of deep healing, deep spiritual growth. So there's challenges that come with that. But overall, I am laying on a foundation of true peace. And I'm definitely a man of faith. So and I'm also what I like to call a delusional optimist.
Talk about that.
Yeah, no matter what's going on in my life, I find a perspective that positions it as something that's serving me, no matter what it is. Right. So that's part of the thing that I build my peace on, is knowing that everything is happening for me, not to me.
Yeah. Conscious leadership. I like that. Yes, exactly. And it's interesting that I say that there's a book, one of my favorite books, The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. And one of the first tenets is radical responsibility. 100% responsibility. Because a lot of people, as Brix will say, well, the world is doing this to me. Why would the world do this to me instead of the world is by me, and the world is for me. And if we're looking at that we can move through the tenor of the spaces of life that we are, the context of life that we're put in, and that we ultimately have control of how we move through the world, even though, God, faith, the universe will put us in spaces where we're challenged. How do we respond to that? Is up to us,
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wonder, Brix, if you can think back, when you felt like the world was challenging you previously and how you handled that. And are you different now? And how are you handling that differently?
I grew up in a very tumultuous environment.
Okay.
Both in my home and outside of my home. I grew up in Brownsville, Brooklyn, which is notoriously one of the most gang infested, violence, infested neighborhoods in New York City.
Yeah.
So there was that, right? My nervous system, when I stepped outside of my house, from the time I was 6 years old, you know, seeing people get killed in front of me, you know, living in an environment where survival is normal, right? The idea of just like getting home safe is a real concern. So there's that. And then inside my home, there was a lot of abuse. You know, it just wasn't a very nourishing or nurturing environment at home. My mom did the best she could, you know, but there was a lot.
Tell that story, brother.
And I try to walk light when I tell that story, because yes, it's my story.
Yeah.
But it's also her story, right? And I try to be as empathetic and graceful as possible when I'm telling the story, but there's a lot of pain there. So that's why I walk light. But long story short, you know, I grew up in a very challenging environment, and it caused a lot of challenges that I brought with me into my adulthood that I'm still wrestling with today.
Yeah.
You know, but I think I am better because of it. It made me who I am, right? I feel like my soul was incarnated into this version of reality, and it chose my parents because I was supposed to experience the challenges that I experienced, because it was all designed in God's great design to equip me to serve, you know? So I do have that perspective on it, but I do have those moments where it kicks my ass still, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm here for the fullness of that experience, but you know, both the optimistic viewpoint and then those moments where I'm struggling with it. So, yeah.
Brix has a balance. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
No. I was just saying, like, it's embracing the duality of it all, and just having this radical acceptance, and again maintaining my optimism.
And you know, you know, I think that when we look at our lives, you know, we look, it's easy for, and I'll say this very transparently, I think it's easy for people to say, oh, hey, Corporate, you grew up in, you know, a 2-parent household. It seemed like it was glossy, seemed like it was, you know, a Huxtable-ish life, and the trauma even in the Huxtable-ish life that you bring into the world, that you experience, it shapes you. You know, it shapes you, and it wasn't always rose-colored glasses. You know, as we say, there was a heightened level of you know, sympathetic nervous system response to things, you know, and that level of trauma has packed his bags and came along with me for a long ride, if you know what I'm saying.
For sure.
Yeah, and so I definitely hear you. I wonder, knowing you and knowing parts of your story, how did that experience growing up in New York, you know, how did you cope with that? How did you cope with that aspect of being in that space and a heightened, you know, nervous system, you know, perspective? What were the things that you did to cope at that point in time?
So I you know, obviously hindsight is 2020, right? This was the only reality that I knew, right? And I think part of the coping was food, right?
Yeah.
Part of the coping was just kind of being disassociated from my own body.
Right. Yeah.
If that makes sense,
Yeah.
right? It was just having to normalize all of the violence in my neighborhood and the abuse in my house, like just having to it was all that I knew. But food was definitely the biggest thing that I used to self-soothe.
Yeah.
Right. And that became a habit that I brought with me into adulthood, which caused me to gain 160 pounds after high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and if you look, Brix, you what 6'2"?
Yeah, I'm about 6'1".
Yeah, 6'1", 6'1", and I'm assuming if you look, you were probably 6'1" at the time. You're probably 165, 175 pounds at the time, and you're saying that you gained another
Yeah.
160 pounds.
Yeah,
Wow.
when I graduated high school, I thought I probably was about 200 pounds. And
Mm.
yeah, I got up to 360 pounds, 370 pounds with my heaviest. Yeah,
Really?
almost 400 pounds. Yep.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's not the brother that I saw walk cavalierly across the grounds at Town Point Park. So happens. This is what happens when you get a PhD on the cavalierly, you know. But that's not and we'll get to that story. But I'm glad that I'm glad you began to bring that aspect up, because you said that dealing with the trauma and dealing with that response, with the soothing things, we do things to soothe ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
to find a way to calm ourselves down, and some people will find a litany of things to do. For you, it was food. And Revolutionaries, if you get a chance to Google Robert Brix Glover, you'll see what he's talking about. You'll see the before,
Mm-hmm.
as and that's why I wanted to pull that out, is that often we don't get to a certain phase of life without a precursor, with something that brings us to that aspect, whether it's food, whether it's addiction, whether it's whatever it is, there's something there. So that's a part of the etiology of who we are. Walk me through, Brix, this, not the journey to get to where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
Walk me through the journey of getting to 360 pounds.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah. So I grew up in a household where food was treated very scarcely,
Mm,
right? My mom would keep a lot of the food in her room and she would ration it out. Like she would put
mm,
cereal in little Ziploc bags each day, right? With this quarter cup serving. And she would just kind of control the amount of food we had access to, which created this scarcity
yeah, yeah.
mindset
Mm-hmm.
around food. Like there's not enough. So anytime I was in an environment where there was unlimited food, I was kind of like a squirrel,
Mm,
trying to gather as much food as I can before I'm back in a season of famish, right?
right.
So when I went to college, this is the first time ever I have access to unlimited
Mm.
food, and I went crazy. Every time I touched that cafeteria,
Mhm.
I had seconds and thirds, and I brought food back to my room.
Right.
And I didn't realize that, what was happening. Obviously, in retrospect, I can articulate it in this way, but I had no clue what was happening. It was just like, I just wanted the food.
Yeah.
So, and then also just dealing with the stress of unprocessed trauma, right? Wreaking havoc in my life, in my relationship,
Yeah.
right? And this habit of avoiding my emotions,
Mm.
right? Compounded the abuse of the food. Um, 18 credit hours,
Mhm.
40 hours of work, two toddlers under 3,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Can you imagine that, right? 18
Yeah.
credits,
Yeah.
working full time. So school full time, work full time, two kids under 3 years old
Right. So
at the
full-time
same
dad.
time. Yeah, all the way. So over time, just numbing with food, completely disconnected from my body. I didn't
Yeah.
even realize that I gained all that weight. There was a moment where I hadn't seen my mom in 4 years, and she walked up on me and her jaw dropped.
Really?
She's like, "Yo, what did you do to my son?" And I'm completely oblivious. Like, I don't know what the hell she's talking about.
Yeah.
No clue. And she's like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "Mom, what are you talking about?" She's like, "What did you do to yourself?" I had no clue. I would avoid cameras, I would avoid mirrors. And slowly over the the span of maybe 6 years, I had put on nearly 200 pounds, and it was
Wow.
just like, what the hell. So I have the utmost empathy for people who don't really realize that they're abusing themselves with food. Like, I understand that struggle, but yeah, that's kind of how it happened, slowly over time, just
Yeah.
using it to avoid my feelings. And yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I think that, folks need to understand that, like, you can move through spaces in life, and like you said, you said this in the green room, and disassociate, not see it.
Mm-hmm.
One of my good friends, Jamal said something to me, God, it may be 20 years ago now, and it was the most poignant thing that I've ever heard in my life. Jamal Anthony. And he said, "We're the star of a movie that we never get to see."
Mm.
And what it feels like is that you were starring in a movie that you didn't get to see and that you didn't want to see.
Yeah.
Because it's an amazing thing. And Jamal, thank you for that. I mean, literally, I remember that. It's half the time, Brix, I can't remember what I did on Friday.
Yeah.
But he said that, and it stuck with me so much, that we walk through the world and have impact on others and impact on ourselves, and we don't see it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
then
that's so real, because my girlfriend pointed out to me the other day, like, it happens a few times a week. We'll see people in public, and they're like expressing like how much impact my story and what I've been doing on social media has made on their lives. And it blows her mind that I'll sit home and I'll just doubt my effectiveness. Like, I'll doubt if I'm making impact, right? Like, I'll have this imposter syndrome. And she's like, you have people every day coming up to you, telling you how much impact you've made on them, but still you doubt yourself. So there's like a delusion, right? This is so, like, I'm not able to see it. But yeah, so that speaks to what your buddy Jamal said. Right? And it's so real.
I'm gonna take a side track real quick and come back. I wonder, Brix, how, like, Revolutionaries, if you just Google this dude, you will, like, literally, I've been almost hiding who Robert Brix Glover is, because I told him I wanted to pull this story out unlike anything that he's ever done. Like, but go, as you're listening to this, just Google him, and you'll see the story. You'll see the number of followers. You'll see where he is on YouTube and Instagram and all the places that he is. And he's talking about, like, the impact that he's had. And we're going to get to why that impact is so great. But I wonder, why is it that you won't allow yourself, or maybe doubt yourself, when it comes to the tremendous impact that you have on the world?
Yeah, that's what me and my therapist are still trying to figure out.
Yeah.
It's a
I
blockage
appreciate
of
you sharing
love
that.
for
Yeah.
myself in some way that I'm not recognizing, but I am doing the work to atone that with myself, right? To address whatever the gap or the blockage of self-love is. So I'm confident in the clarity that's on the way for me on that.
I appreciate that. And because I selfishly asked you that question. It was not, that didn't have to do with anything but me, because I wrestle with the same thing. I wrestle with the same thing. And to be honest with you, like, this show and the things that I do could be much, much bigger. But I wrestle with something inside here that says, okay, you're big enough, and your impact is big enough. And who are you to think that you could be the people that you idolize? Although I'm walking in airports and say, hey, aren't you the revolution guy? You know, hey, I listened to your show and it helped me think about what my revolution is. Thank you. You know, but similarly, thinking about that, like, it keeps me up at night, Brix. It keeps me like, why after almost 9 years and knowing that this is something bigger, much bigger than me, why am I holding myself back?
We kind of live in a world that encourages that, right? So it's about really stepping audaciously into it, right?
Yeah.
Like audacity, like you have to have the audacity to dream and think and maneuver in a big way, right? So I think that's part of it, but obviously I don't have the answers. It's something that I'm working through right now, but God's working with me through that. And this season of playing small and limiting myself is coming to a close.
Yeah. And I love that you said that, this season of playing small. And the old line would say, cut that season short, you know, and don't play small, you know. God, it's one of my favorite poems, but now I can't, you know, as always, I can't think about it. It was in this basketball movie with Samuel L. Jackson and
Coach Carter
and the young man. Her name is Marion something. Her name is Marion something, and she writes this poem. And when she says, you know, your playing small does nothing for the world, something like that, and it doesn't do justice to anyone with us playing small. You know, not at all.
We're cheating people.
Yeah, we're cheating people. Like we were born with greatness. And it is an injustice if we play small. I want to move back. And thank you for allowing me to, you know, go along that sidetrack for a second, but I want to move back. Like, you're in this space and you know, your mom has seen you for the first time after 4 years. And you're realizing that I have been coping. I have been doing all the going to school, working, all of the things. I'm a version particularly. Wait, let me ask the question. Did you recognize this version of yourself? Did you think that this was extraordinary or out of the ordinary, or that you had accepted that this is who I am?
Are you saying when I gained all the weight, did I accept that version of myself? Think about it. I like the reason I had gotten that big is because I was numbing. So the entire time I was that big, I was very much disconnected from myself. I was disconnected from my body, right? And so I don't know. I can't really answer that question, but I know I didn't feel alive again until I started treating myself better and being more intentional about acknowledging and sitting with my emotions and learning how to do that, right? Gathering those sort of tools to do the inner work. So that entire season of my life, when I walked around nearly 400 pounds, is a complete blur.
Wow.
To me, because I didn't even, it's like, I don't feel it. I don't remember feeling connected to myself in any way.
Wow.
Yeah.
I often say, Brix, when we walk through like that, we walk through blind or, you know, sleeping, unconscious. There is a moment that life wakes you up. It's a punch. It can be a punch in the gut. It can be a lightning strike. It could be a moment, someone walking up and saying, you know what, I'm going to just smack you. I'm going to wake you up because you're walking aimlessly in this world. What was that moment?
I had a moment. So the moment happened in two distinct events. So in 2012, I made one of the worst decisions in my life that landed me in some trouble with the law, right? And that one decision on that day, I lost everything. I lost my job because I recently graduated from Norfolk State. I had my bachelor's
Right.
degree. I had my first real big boy job.
Behold.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, I lost my job. I lost my family, like me and my kid's mom, my ex-wife.
Mhm.
We had recently, broken up. So we were going through a divorce at the time. So I lost my family at the same time. I saw she started dating a trainer, a dude who was a personal trainer, right? Somebody who
Right.
was fit. So I lost, my family. I lost my car. I lost everything in that one day, right? In that one moment.
Right.
And then it wasn't until March 2013, which is about a little over a year later, that I woke up and something snapped inside of me, Charles. Something inside of me. It's so hard to articulate this. Something inside of me snapped. It was like my aha moment, as Auntie Oprah calls it, right? Right.
Right.
My aha moment. And it was a decision on that day that I was going to redesign my identity.
Well, I
Right.
like that. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Redesign my identity.
I wanted to completely overhaul my identity. And that was the day that intention was born. And I started documenting it because I felt it in my spirit that something was changing, something big was happening. And it was important that I captured it because I knew it was going to serve people in some way. So that was kind of like the two moments. But obviously this is always, it's always a series of events that kind of lead to those moments.
Yes, I would agree.
But those are the moments that really like created the shifts.
Yeah. You think that, okay, there's a light bulb moment. There was a light bulb moment. And then you think, okay, I changed my life right away. But it sounded like it took you a year.
Yeah.
What did you do? You had the light bulb moment. What did you do during that year? Before that was that next thing I need to get off my ass.
I mean, at that point, I'm dealing with all the legal stuff, right?
Okay.
I'm like, there's the potential for me to do 7 years in prison.
Oof.
In that period of time. So it wasn't until I got out of the fear of potentially going to prison that I had this space to even think about like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
So once I got past that,
yeah,
that's when it was like, okay, now, and it's so crazy. I have all the videos where I documented all of this stuff from back in 2012, 2013, where I'm speaking to the camera about, hey, like I had my court date today. I didn't have to go to jail. Now I'm speaking these declarations over my life.
Manifestations.
Right? Yes, I'm speaking it into existence. And I'm just so grateful that I have those moments captured.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, I literally think, because who thinks when they're going through the muck, they're going through the dark period, I'm gonna chronicle this because, right? I don't even know, but maybe this revolution of my life is going to help someone else's revolution.
Yeah.
Right?
And
Who think
I felt it.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had documented all the shit.
And this is before the big boom in social media.
Yeah.
Right. This is before, this was really a thing. So yeah, I'm grateful, but I've always kind of been a documenter, right? I don't want to make it seem like it was just this, aha, like God's like, no, start documenting. Like I've always kind of been a documenter prior to social media. Like my kids, I tell people my kids have the most well-documented lives probably of any human on this planet. So I've always kind of been like that. But I'm just grateful, right? I'm just grateful that I've had, because those videos have blessed so many people, right? It's people call me a hope dealer, right? Some of the most impactful packages of hope have been delivered with those pieces of content, those moments that I was able to capture, because it gives me credibility. It's more than just me telling people like, hey, this is where I've been and this is what I've, achieved. But it's like, bringing them into the moment with me.
Yeah.
And that's powerful, you know, so I'm grateful that
You think
I thought of
about
that.
this, you know, you were introduced to my good friend Jessica this summer, and I know that y'all have been building as well, but she talks about her work. She believes in the divine, you know, and how the divine will then plant things into your life. And it's, you know, those who know the story of What's a Revolution know that I was sitting in graduation listening to Stevie Wonder and Tom Friedman, and all of a sudden it was downloaded to me, this concept of What's a Revolution, you know, downloaded. And I feel like her concept of the divine, right, of, you know, being downloaded. I talked to so many founders, like all of a sudden one night it was like this was seeded into me, and now I'm bringing it to fruition. You know, I'm bringing it to fruition. It feels like the same thing for you. You know, once your mind and space were clear, because oftentimes the music is playing, but we don't hear it because there's so much other noise.
Yeah.
But if we can filter out all of the other noise, all of a sudden here, wait a minute, oh, it's right there. Yeah. It's right there, and then boom, I got a story to tell about this journey that I'm about to be on, this journey that I'm on, right? And this journey that I'm going to get off, and I'm going to start another journey. And I'm going to document each step of each journey from this point on. And I find it because amazing is how do you, like you said, you've been a documenter all along, but why am I going to document this? And who said, well, put it on YouTube, go to Brix Fitness on YouTube, like find this brother. There are, what, you probably got thousands of videos at this point in time.
Yeah,
thousands of video. I mean, you're a YouTube sensation. Like I'm hiding the aspect, but you are an, you know, and I'm not really fond of the word, but you're an influencer. Like you are I mean, and you know, I don't like the way that it's been used, but in this instance, Brix, what you're doing is influencing how people can show up better in their lives. Because you think about this, moving this from I was almost 400 pounds to now I'm this statuesque, model-esque figure that captures attention everywhere you go. And then there's a story behind it. Like, and it's not like you walk into a room like, Brix is here. You walk into a room with a level of humility and gravitas and gratitude, because I think, you know, I have been in the muck, you know, I have been in the muck, and I'm still walking through this, but in a better vessel than I've ever been. And when I have the ability to chronicle that, because, you know, folks will be like, man, I see Brix all the time, all the things. I think we would, you know, idolize without understanding the true journey that folks go through. And I think what you're doing is so poignant and needed for folks who don't know how to, you know, to move from A to B. And I think about, I love my line brothers, and they're probably going to get mad at me for saying this, but I love you all. They've been on walks like yours as well. You know, they've been on walks and still continue walks. They need to see your journey because they're fighting, and I love them. And and it's not that but they're fighting every day to figure out how to move the weight and the angst and the anxiety and the things, the trauma, all of the things that you've talked about. Can I push it aside for a second and really focus on this? Because you and I look alike in a sense that our skin is brown. And we know that our life expectancy is lower than anyone else's. I just had a high school friend die.
Mm.
54 years old. And that, like, it's not old, it's young.
Yeah.
Lupus, diabetes, heart condition. And he was, I know Fred for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I get a text message that he's dead.
Yeah.
So I say all that in my long diatribe that I can do sometimes on the show, is that your revolution that you've been building was for you at one moment. It is not for you anymore.
Mm-mm. No. Yeah. My therapist just called me a martyr.
We don't want you to die here, brothers. Martyrs die.
No. Yeah. No. Yeah. But and I bring that up. So it's a few things, right? So you mentioned the noise. I want to get to the martyr part, but first I want to comment on clearing out the noise and making room for you to hear the voice of the divine, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And a big part of why I'm here today, a big tool that I've used for healing, for clarity, for growth, for emotional regulation is meditation. I'm an advocate for the practice, and I just wanted to plant that seed in the hearts and the minds of your listeners to give yourself an opportunity as often as possible to observe the nature of your mind. Yeah. Right. Because the more you can understand your mind, the more you can understand your emotions, the more access you have to peace and empathy for self and others, right? When you understand the trickery that the mind will constantly present and you practice, this is what we need to disassociate ourselves from, if anything. Yeah. Is from the shenanigans of the mind and know that we are not the mind. Anyway, I digress, but I wanted to plant that seed.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. But a big part of the martyr conversation that I need to, like, I put so much value in my suffering and in my story. And that's part of what I'm trying to be more aware of when I tell my story, is to be careful not to associate so much with, oh, I'm from the hood and I came up in this environment, and like, because part of what I think keeps me small is this idea that, oh, you're just the kid from the hood. Yeah. That, subconsciously there's a belief there that I don't deserve more, or to be on the next level. Yeah. Talk to Oprah and all that stuff that is in my future, but having to work past this identity of smallness that is probably seated in those limitations from that environment is something that, I'm being really intentional about in this season of my life.
Brother, I thank you for illuminating that, because I even in this phase of my life, I look at others. Like, I had a friend of mine named Dr. Andre Perry, who's a senior fellow at the Brookings Institute. He's been on the show. And you want to talk about audacity. And I think that's what it is. It's on audacity to say, I should be in the space with Oprah. Mm-hmm. I should be sitting down with the luminaries of my field. I'm just as good as them. And President Obama said it the best. Like, there's a viral clip of him saying, is that when he's like, I've been in rooms with these cats, and he's like, you here? You got this station? You doing this? And I'm like,
yeah, I've experienced that. I've been in these rooms with these people who, as a society, we all pedestalize and just like, hey, they're no smarter than us. They're no more talented, than us. It's the audacity. It's
the audacity.
And part of it is delusion. It's like a healthy self-delusion.
Yeah. That really and sometimes it could be an unhealthy delusion, as we see with some folks. I won't name some them. Folks, yeah. But, but we know where they are and where they sit and what they're doing.
Yeah. So, maybe, I don't know. We just need to step more into the reality of who we are, the truth of who we are.
Yeah.
you know, and yeah.
And I wonder, Brix. And I mean, the thing that comes up is how, because when Andre Perry walks into a room, you know that Andre Perry has walked into a room. Mm. There's a delusional sense of gravitas and, you know, a wonderful sin of hubris that goes along with Dr. Andre Perry, Brookings Institute, you know, published author. He's on MSNBC, Fox, whatever, all the time speaking. Genuine. But there's an audacity. And I think those folks that have an audacity to walk into rooms with fear and move anyway, to know that these folks in the room are no greater, no smarter, you know, have less, you know, and potentially have less ability than you and I. Mm-hmm. And when you walk into that room with that level of audacity, but with and I don't want to say humility, but with authenticity. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You understand that, because I always wonder, how did the Barack move through the spaces? How did you know, after 400 years, get to be the one? He had to have the audacity, and he also had to have the partner beside him. And so I wonder, because I want to circle back real quick. Part of the catalyst for this revolution of your own life was the ending of your relationship. Mm-hmm. What does having a good relationship do for you at this juncture of your journey? Because and the reason why I ask you that question is because the most successful men that I see, the people that I see, are the ones that have strong partners and don't allow all the other noise that we can get to come into their spaces. So I wonder, talk about that. What does strong partnership do for you at this juncture?
So my partner is my mirror. She's my accountability partner in ways that is hard to articulate. She sees my blind spots. She brings out the best and the worst in me, which has a lot of value, right? Yeah. She's my safe space, right? She's my first experience with a feminine safe space. I didn't have that with my mom.
Yeah. Wow. Right? Wow. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. She's a lot of things, man. But the amount of growth and insight, right? Like, you know, personal growth and peace is easy when you're by yourself, right? It's all theory, right? Because you have control over everything when you're alone. But practice of all these things happens in relationship.
Yeah, it does. You know, it does.
So there's been a lot of growth, and I'm so happy to have her by my side in this season of my life. It's very interesting soil to build a bond in, but it's also very telling of how special this human is that I have beside me, to be in this season of, you know, of my life with me, and it not scaring her away. So I'm very grateful for that, because we know how rare that is nowadays, especially with young, beautiful women. You know, that's not anything they sign up for.
I want to sit in my feminine. I want to be a traditional. You know what I'm saying? You know, look, I need a partner. Like, don't get me started.
And it's none of that type of energy with my partner. And I'm just very grateful for that.
Yeah, brother, I appreciate that. And look, you know, we talked about who we used to be, you know, and I'll say this, who I used to be. There would be never a point in time where I would say on this show that I had a girlfriend, you know, and being grateful for my partner, you know, being grateful for, you know, the safe space that you talk about. Because, you know, I think that when you say the S word, safety. Like, we don't talk about that often, you know, as men, like this feeling of warmth and safety. You know, I talk about good relationships feeling like warm water. We, as Black men, we walk out into the cold every day. You know, we wade into the cold waters every day, fighting, armoring up every day. And Revolutionaries, you know, I've told the story, so I won't say about, you know, 300 and Leonidas and that whole thing. But when I come home from the cold, I want to strip myself of my armor and be bathed in warm water and safety. And if we do not have that, we started this show talking about a heightened nervous system response. If we want to see 75 and 85 and 90, our bodies need places to feel safe much more often than they don't.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, so that's my thing. And I appreciate you sharing. I want to land this because it's important to note that being an influencer, being someone who is out in the world and telling their story day by day by day by day. If you had any advice for someone who was trying to tell their story and create a movement like you have, what would you say to them?
My approach is not for everyone, but I've found that my secret sauce is vulnerability. Right? Authenticity and vulnerability, I think, is the best glue for connecting you with people.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? And it's the best thing to cut through the noise of social media because everyone is just posturing themselves as the best version, and they're giving you their highlights, but they're not giving you the complete story. So if you want to stand out, tell the full story, right? Share your pain, find what you uniquely have to offer to humanity, and really, really double down on that, right? But that also takes experimenting and finding your voice. Don't overthink content. Document. Right? Just document. You don't necessarily need to teach anything. Like you'd be surprised, and I'm still surprised that people care about what I do in my day, right? I watch, I'll create vlogs and I still don't really understand it, but I say that to say, people are interested in the nuances of you. And share that, share as much as you're comfortable with, but just being authentic, being vulnerable, it is a great way to connect with people because our humanness is what really bonds us. So the more you can share your humanness, I think, that goes a long way.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, if you were able to chronicle, if somebody were to go back and then chronicle all of the information, the journey, the transparency, the vulnerability, like you get to see Brix. And I wonder, Brix, as as a reflection, as you walk through this period of your life, and you call it it's your label. I won't, and that's not my job to say what this label is. I wonder if this is the next iteration of your influence as you talk about this station of where you are and what you're going through and how you're moving through that space. Because too often people that look like me and you don't chronicle that. They don't chronicle those places that we go to, because
No, I was going to say my rule after doing this for a decade is I like to share after the breakthroughs happen. So when I'm in the pits, like I'll share that I'm in a space, but the sharing of the details, because I don't want to overshare just to let you in. I want there to be some gems.
Yeah, exactly.
There, right? I want to give you the story and then also give you the lesson, give you the download. So trust me, once I get through this season, there's going to be plenty of content because I'm documenting.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a journaler. I'm a voice noter. I'm a video document, a diary type of person, and I'll be able to make content. But I like to get through the treacherous terrain first, get the insight, and then go back and serve with it.
Yeah. It's going to be a good story to tell, I promise you.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that.
Revolutionaries, as I said, go find out who this brother is. Robert Brix Glover. Go to Brix Fitness. He's all over social media. All of his story. Brix, give us a last something that we can take home with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I want to encourage everyone to develop, especially men, right? To the men, but also the women who listen. Create disciplines in your life that allow you to explore your inner world.
Yeah.
Daily, right? Have a moment every day where you can set intentions, where you can observe yourself, where you can allow yourself to feel what you feel, right? A lot of the trouble that I've found myself in my life came as a result of me, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, avoiding my feelings.
Yeah.
Right?
Tell that story.
So let me just leave that with you guys, whether it's 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or 20 minutes, whatever you can afford, but just make it a habit to give yourself space to observe the nature of your mind and what's going on with you mentally and emotionally. Like, check in with yourself every day.
Yeah. Self-reflection and understanding who you are in those moments will lead you to the next space. Dear brother, I'm grateful. We started this podcast with gratitude. I'm going to end it with gratitude for who you are and where you are in the world and what you bring to us. Keep walking through spaces, so people can see you, and make them curious about who you are. Because if and you do that, but when they're curious, they may find a revolution within themselves by understanding your story. So, brother, I appreciate you. I look forward to the budding friendship that we have and how we can support each other. Revolutionaries, as always, I look forward to supporting you and being here on your journey, being with you on your journey to being the most transformative, the most revolutionary version of your life. Check us out on the website, whatsyourrevolution.com. I love saying that. Make sure if you need support, need coaching, opportunity to figure out what that revolution is, email me at charles@whatsyourrevolution.com. I love you. I love you. I love you. We'll see you next time.